Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my coverage of the 2024 New Japan Cup. Today, I'm going to be reviewing all of round two, which was a bit of a silly undertaking on my part. But I wanted to kind of get it all over with at the same time. Wasn't super happy with how round one shook out. So I wanted to get all of round two done at the same time, like I mentioned. Night five is where we begin. We're going to jump right in. So far, we've all gone through night one through four together. Night five presents us with initially we've got Jack Perry versus Toriano. That's the first cup match of the night. Jack Perry, I had talked about this on the last show, I think, but he is wearing the goat head still. It's very funny. It's a big mascot goat head, and this event is in a big gymnasium, and it's super bright. And it basically just looks like he's a mascot that forgot the bottom half of his costume heading out for like a pep rally. I got a kick out of that. Of course, he's fighting one of our favorites, Toriano. He's a schemer. He's a low down, dirty player, but we love him. And I was kind of interested in this match, honestly, because Jack Perry in AEW had been like a decent kind of plunder, fun guy match participant. And we'll see how it transfers over to New Japan here. I wasn't expecting this match to be long, and it definitely wasn't. Kind of starts off immediately going to the outside, if you can believe it. Yanu ends up taking a pretty awkward fall into the railing. Like he got his feet tangled up below him and kind of fell into it. There's some guardrail stuff. Jack Perry does some good stuff. Yujiro comes out, if you can believe it, from House of Torture. Yanu locks him up to one of the guardrails. But wouldn't you know it, more House of Torture stuff, and we'll get into that. Everyone comes down basically throughout this match, and this is a bit of a theme over round two, is House of Torture being involved in most of the matches and having input on the outcome of those matches, unfortunately. Here they have Yujiro come out, and Yanu like keeps him away for long enough and ends up handcuffing him to a railing. Of course, Yujiro does have a key, and when he's freed, Kanemaru comes out, or in the meantime, I guess Kanemaru comes out and interferes with the match, of course. Bunch of ref bumps, if you can believe it, in this one. It didn't need it. Like, Jack Perry can beat Toriano, no problem, any day of the week. There doesn't need to be a House of Torture involvement for Jack Perry versus Toriano. And as I mentioned, it's a bit of a theme throughout round two, as it was in round one. There's just less there's less other stuff going on in this round than there was in round one, where it was like, okay, House of Torture, and then three matches later, House of Torture. This is like three House of Torture members of these eight matches. So not great. Like I said, Jack Perry wins. I don't know if I said that or not, actually, but Jack Perry wins, which he needed help from his stupid new faction, and he got it, and that's that. So then we have. I don't have a lot. I mean, I do have a lot to say about it, but I'm going to probably say the same thing multiple times throughout this, just about House of Torture and how, like, this was a perfectly fine match for a New Japan Cup match, one featuring Yanu. But like I said, it didn't have to have Jack Perry needing help, and that's annoying. This happens later on with a couple other guys, and we'll get there. Second match of the second round features Yoshihashi and Sanada. Sanada's making his debut in the tournament, and you got to buy into this round. So here we go. This is a match that if you've watched New Japan for any extended period of time, you've seen before. is just that Sonata's in a different faction now, basically. It's pretty good. It's fine. Sonata gets the win. There's a couple sloppy stuff. I didn't really like the stretch and the finish. There was some pretty sloppy stuff. Neither guy is as crisp as they can be. I don't know if that's because they've wrestled each other so many times that they're just kind of going through the motions. It's fine, but like I said, it feels like a match we've seen a bunch. Um, Sonata gets the win, hits him with the deadfall, which I liked when it first came out because it wasn't Skull End and it wasn't the moonsault, but as I mentioned, it just was pretty sloppy. Um, that sets up Jack Perry and Sonata, which I mentioned earlier in my recaps here, is something I thought was going to happen. It's something that we saw at Forbidden Door 2 last July, June, whatever. Shout out all my guys that were there with me, the Wrestling Brain guys, all the homies, the hunks. What a beautiful time we had in Toronto, Ontario. This match not memorable from that trip though, whatsoever. I had actually forgotten it was on the card until I rewatched it a few weeks ago. Um, I imagine that Jack Perry wins this, getting his win back. They get to 1-1 each, and there's an outlying third match that happens sometime in the future that nobody at this point cares about. But that's what's going to happen, in my opinion. Next up, night 6, and that one starts off the first tournament match of that night. We got Tonga Loa and we've got David Finlay. And I've been hard on David Finlay, and rightfully so. I still believe everything that I've said about him not really having what seems like a fleshed out character with moves that are really his own. Um, this one I think was pretty obvious what was going to happen. David Finlay wins. He doesn't even need the shillelagh in this one, which is nice. Tonga Loa is one of the worst wrestlers that's on TV right now or in a major federation. Everything he did was pretty sloppy. He has one really cool though, like sit out. It's almost like a drill claw. Um, that's pretty cool. But yeah, this one, he, Tongaloa tries a 619 or a Tiger Feint kick. You may know it as Rey Mysterio. Guys up against the ropes, does the kick, and he takes this super awkward, like wide path to get to set up the move, and there's just no momentum to what he's doing, and he just basically falls. And throughout this match, he's talking a lot, and none of it's good. It's not any fun kind of in-ring talking like we're used to seeing with some of the greats like Kevin Owens, Zack Sabre Jr. Those guys are fantastic in-ring talkers. Tongaloa decidedly not. Um, and I bring this up because after the 619 attempt, he says, "I'm going to get this." I believe is what he says out loud. And then he tries it again. And he does get it, but he still takes the weird path. And it doesn't seem like he's going to get it, but he does. Anyways, like I do kind of have to have it to Finlay. Sorry, have to hand it to Finlay a little bit. He sells a lot. He does really honestly great work. And as I have been dumping on him for the last year, 2 years, um, you can tell the difference in skill between him and Tongaloa. And even though I don't like Finlay, that made me appreciate him more, just how much better he was than Tongaloa. So he moves on. Like I said, no shillelagh. There's good selling by Finlay down the stretch, and he ends up winning with his kind of vertical suplex into a knee in the face, which I don't mind as a finisher, but it's kind of a weird thing to set up and execute on somebody. Excuse me, especially when they're as hurt as they are at that point in the match. Now, second match of that night in the Cup. 3-time New Japan Cup winner, Hiroki Goto. And he's facing a man we spoke about, I believe, last time on the show, the crown jewel, Chase Owens. Goto's great. He's honorable. He's full of fighting spirit. And again, Chase Owens cut the 2014 Bullet Club shtick. Get some new gear, and we might be onto something. There's lots of moves done by Chase in this one. For sure. He does moves, most of which are like old Bullet Club spam moves, just done more poorly than anyone else who's done them. There's a C trigger, which we talked about, which is a Kenny Omega V trigger. Um, and Owens has this momentum in a weird spot, and the way that Goto's lined up on the ropes, and he ends up going like over the top rope, but not really in a cool way, just kind of like a oafish, oafish way. That was enough. That was enough for me. But our guy Goto does get it done, which was lovely to see. He's moving on to wrestle David Finlay. Goto's trying to become the first man to ever win 4 of these. He's the only one that has won 3, um, but he's going to try to be the 4th. I don't know if he gets past David Finlay here. Hopefully, there's no. No, who am I kidding? There'll be some. There'll be some Bullet Club involvement. Maybe maybe Chaos comes out to help Goto, but I don't know. All of the matches that are set up are off with which is very New Japan. Everyone's part of factions, but because it's Bullet Club and House of Torture involvement in pretty much all of these, you never know. You kind of do know actually that there is going to be some extracurricular activities, and that the factions are getting involved. So hopefully this one stays faction free, but if it does, maybe both factions come out and cancel each other out, and we can get a decent Finlay Goto match, which I believe we can get. I think that should be spent the majority of the time in the ring, but like we've seen in a lot of these matches, kind of what seems to be a New Japan formula right now is outside of the ring, inside the ring, outside the ring, in the ring for a while, hopefully finish it up there. So we'll see what happens. That takes us to night 7. I'm trying to fly through these because I think I chose to do 8 matches. Night 7, Hikuleo versus Evil. This is in another bright gymnasium. And it's really funny because Evil, spooky guy, House of Torture, he's got a cool, dark entrance, but they can't do anything about the lights. I think the lights in those places are on or off, and they were on. Boy, were they ever. So Evil's spooky entrance was definitely muted a little bit by these bright lights, and it not being spooky at all, just bright, like watching a scary movie with fog lights on in your house, halogens. But it's kind of fun. Hikuleu, obviously huge. Um, Evil seems like he really, I don't know if he enjoys working Hikuleu or what, but he sells for him really well. Evil works on the knee for basically anytime he's getting offense in on this match, he's working the knee, which is something I really like. Um, Despite being in House of Torture, Evil is still a guy who gets it. You gotta work the knee. You gotta chop down the big man. Hikuleo is 7 feet tall, and you need to get him to the ground. And Evil understands that. Um, but here come House of Torture. Did you miss them? I didn't. I didn't at all. I just saw them. I watched all of these matches in a row, and it was nonstop. Um, Hikuleo fights off some of them. There's actually a really cool spot where Hikuleo gorilla presses Evil and basically like drops him into a cutter. Huge fan of that. Nice to see the big man show some strength. Um, Evil tries a Scorpion Deathlock at one point, which Hikuleo fights out of. Pretty cool. Right after that, Evil hits a big sliding lariat, really rattles Hikuleo, and then he pulls him up, hits and everything is evil, and it's 1, 2, 3. Um, on the way out of the ring, Evil reveals that he pulls down his wrist guard or wrist pad or whatever, and reveals that there's a big metal chunk in there, and that's why that lariat that I liked so much had such an effect on Hikuleo. Anyways, 1, 2, 3, Evil gets it. He's moving on to the quarterfinals, where he will face the winner of this match, which I was really looking forward to. It's Gabe Kidd from Bullet Club War Dogs versus Shingo Takagi from Los Ingobernables de Japón. And this one, very excited for. So these guys start. I'm going to get a little bit more involved in this match. These guys brawl on the outside for a while. Gabe Kidd gets on the mic and says something in Japanese that the crowd and Shingo do not like. If someone in the comments wants to let me know what he says, that might be fun, but it also might be censored and you might not be able to post it online. So who knows? They go out into the crowd. Gabe Kidd gets the advantage of Shingo. There was a whole pile of stuff on him: chairs, guardrails, etc. And then he makes a little pile of chairs on the other side of Shingo. Shingo gets out of there, hits him with a really fun little pile driver on all these chairs, and Gabe Kidd goes back to the ring, calls over the official, and says, "Start counting this guy out." Can Shingo make it back for a 20 count? Of course he can. Of course he can. They're not going to end a Shingo match with a 20 count, are they? No, they're not. But it's great. Shingo like thrashes his way back to the ring, really doing his best to make it look like he's not going to make it. Of course, he gets in at 19. As soon as he slides in, Gabe Kidd hits Shingo with a big kind of backdrop driver. Really nice stuff. Both combatants square off. They're outside of the ring for quite a while, and then they're in the ring for a bunch of this one, and in the middle of the ring too, which we love to see. They're squared off. They're hitting bombs on each other, and about halfway through this one, Shingo, it's about 50-50 at this point. It was good to see all the disrespect from Gabe Kidd towards Shingo. Gabe Kidd being a young heel, not mincing any words. Shingo being a veteran babyface, getting a ton of heat from the crowd, or a ton of love from the crowd in this case. And there's just some great stuff in this. Some big throws, some big heavy fists, elbows. Shingo does the Tenryu back and forth, left elbow, right elbow, left elbow, right elbow. That was good. Gabe Kidd fights off a Last of the Dragon in this one, which is, he doesn't kick out of it. He doesn't get hit with it at this point. Gabe Kidd hits him with a massive rebounding lariat and a tombstone. Shingo kicks out. Gabe Kidd is absolutely frazzled. They continue to hit each other pretty hard, and the crowd is super into this. There's a really heavy lariat that Shingo hits. It's a big pumping bomber where they both duck each other twice on the way back on the way to the ropes and back, and then Shingo just unloads, picks Gabe up, hits him with a Last of the Dragon. 1, 2, 3. The Rampage Dragon Shingo Takagi moves on, where he will be facing the winner of the next match. And thankfully, the last match we'll be covering in this episode. Nope, I'm just kidding. There's still 2 more matches. Joking around. Next night. God, I did this to myself. Next night, night 8. Yota Tsuji. Sorry, Shingo will be taking on Evil. They're both former faction mates within LIJ. This one could be really good. This one could also have a lot of House of Torture involvement. It could also maybe have LIJ involvement. Usually the LIJ guys stay out of each other's matches, as they're both, as all the members are very tranquilo. They're just chilling out backstage, and if their guy wins. But maybe if they see House of Torture do what they've been doing, they'll come out and help Shingo. Remains to be seen, but this match could be good. This match could also be really bad. So many of these matches throughout the entire cup have had a low floor and a high ceiling, and we haven't hit that high ceiling very often. Most of the time it's been around the floor, specifically in House of Torture matches. But it's been getting a little bit better, even though it's been tough to get through it. It is getting better. Maybe that's coping. We'll see later. I have some stuff to say about Zack Sabre Jr. and Ren Narita, which is the second match coming up here. But first, Yota Tsuji versus El Phantasmo. These guys, super cool. They're both very familiar. They're both heavyweights, but they're both very familiar with junior heavyweight and kind of lightweight, more PWG style, if you will, more lucha style, a little more high flying stuff. And despite both being big guys, they do hit some really cool spots in this. Um, Yota Tsuji is such a star. His big smile is menacing. It's both very pretty and very scary at the same time. The rare smile that does that to a guy. Um, and yeah, they're on the apron. There's a cool spot out there for a while. It ultimately ends with LP being on the floor and Tsuji jumping off of the apron and hitting him with a big stomp. There's a few of those stomps in this match. Sorry, um, there's some really near falls. LP hits a sudden death on Tsuji's out at like 2.9. There's a lot of near falls down the stretch, which was pretty fun. Like I mentioned earlier, a little bit PWG, just like cool move, near fall, cool move, near fall. They kind of beat the piss out of each other and do cool moves for a lot of this match, which was really nice way to go after seeing Evil and Hikuleo. Sorry, no, like I said, I watched all these in one night, and so they're a little bit confused in my brain. This was the first cup match of this night, but it was nice seeing it after having watched the House of Torture stuff. Just two guys who absolutely understand the business here. Tsuji ends up getting the win with a pretty vicious stomp, followed by that top rope kind of jumping stomp he's been doing. And this is just my kind of match. This is why I watch New Japan. And these two guys, certainly Tsuji, as LP's already kind of gotten a little push, and maybe we've seen his ceiling within the Fed. Maybe not. He could still have. I could see him being a never open weight champ. I know he's been a tag team champ, both junior and heavy at this point. But we'll see what happens with El Phantasmo. Moving on, I believe finally we've reached the last match of round 2 on night 8. We got Zack Sabre Jr., who was my pick to win the whole thing, versus Ren Narita, who beat Taichi in the first round. So keep that in mind, that Ren Narita already beat Taichi. I mentioned that Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi would have been a really nice second round matchup. We're not getting that. We had House of Torture garbage against Taichi, and Ren Narita got through, which I had concerns about this match as well. We'll see what happens. Zach got a bye into this round, so we didn't see him in night 1 or in round 1. He's my pick to win the tournament. He'd be the second 3-time winner ever, with Hiroki Goto being the other. And I thought he was going to win it and ultimately win the big belt. But to my surprise, House of Torture is involved in this one. Let's get to the start here. Sorry. Zach's out. His Young Punks theme is pretty sick. He's got Mikey Nichols with him, but Ren Narita has all of House of Torture with him. So you can kind of see early that there's a numbers game here that Zack Sabre Jr. is not going to win. They're outside the ring. They're inside the ring. Zach's selling like crazy for Narita outside of the ring. He takes a couple awkward attempted sells over the railing that looked like they hurt him more just because he was trying to make it look better. Shout out Zach for sure. Once back in the ring, Narita has control for a while. We're like 10 minutes in or so at this point. Zach works his way back with a big boot and some not rest holds because they all look like they hurt a lot. So he's kind of hurting him a little bit. He's got some some good kicks, some good uppercuts, of course, and some neck cranks, as Zack Sabre Jr. does. He hits him with a big. Sorry, Zack hits Ren Narita with a big elbow, and it looks like Narita might have broken his nose. He's pretty bloody. Um, Lots of back and forth here from two great in ring guys. They're both such like cheeky technicians that when they were doing what they do best, um, it was really pleasant to watch. Just prowess, technical prowess, and understanding how to work a wrestling match in the ring. But of course, out comes House of Torture, and it's a numbers game, which I mentioned. Zach doesn't have those numbers. There's like 17 guys in House of Torture, maybe six. Feels like they just keep coming out, especially with Jack Perry involved now. Where it's like, oh yeah, right, this guy, the goat head guy, right? He's in House of Torture now. Um, Zach fights him off as best as he can. You know, Big Evil gets in there. Um, he turns around and Narita nails him. Narita nails Zack Sabre Jr. with whatever he's been carrying around. It's like some sort of a plank, maybe reinforced with some aluminum or something. I don't know what it is. Maybe someone can let me know. I haven't been paying much attention prior to New Japan Cup since Wrestle Kingdom, which he might have even had at Wrestle Kingdom. Anyways, someone let me know if you feel like it. If you know, might be a mystery. Um, Awful stuff here, unfortunately, as Ren Narita gets the win against Zack Sabre Jr. My pick. My hopes have been dashed for now. We'll see. I think Zach's still going to win that big belt. What we got? March. I think he still wins it this year. So yeah, that's that. I didn't hate this one as much, House of Torture and outcome wise, as I did for a couple earlier matches. This was kind of a match that Narita maybe needed House of Torture to win, as opposed to when Jack Perry got help from House of Torture. Um, and didn't need it to beat Toru Yano. I think Narita did need it to beat Zack Sabre Jr. Um, that being said, I think Narita, it would have been a big win for Narita if he didn't use House of Torture, and maybe that comes back at some point for a rematch because these guys are definitely great in ring together. It sucks to see Ren Narita be as good as he is, and have House of Torture with him. Not only that, but using this weird like X Pac face buster as his finishing move just seems like so dweeby. I think he used to have a straight jacket German as his finisher, if I recall correctly, when he was a young lion or when he was on excursion. And that was fantastic. So bring that back. House of Torture, go to hell. And I know that's the point. I know that House of Torture exists to interfere in matches and make people angry. But just because they're doing that and I'm like hating it doesn't mean it's good. Like there's ways to do this that are good and still compelling. This isn't it. House of Torture is debauched. They're a nightmare group of people who are interfering in matches. Every match, every single match. Don't need it. So, moving on. That's enough of this. Too much talking. Probably too much talking, I think. Um, Quarterfinals. Sonata versus Jack Perry. David Finlay, Hiroki Goto, Evil, Shingo. Should be good. Could be good. And Yota Tsuji versus Ren Narita, who just defeated my hopeful champion, Zack Sabre Jr. All those matches are coming up in last night and tonight. And then the semis are on Sunday. So I'll probably be back on Monday or Tuesday to go over the semis and talk about the main and how that lines up. Until then, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been really fun to do. Got a lot of encouragement from friends, and it's been a treat. Despite not enjoying all that much of the wrestling, I've been enjoying talking to all of you. Sound off about what you think might happen in the quarters in the comments if you want. We can chat. If not, we'll see you next time. Peace.